Hello, everybody. My name is Koti Jaladi. I live in Plainsboro, New Jersey, and today we are going to, discuss the PSAT, the NMSQT, the National Merit Scholarship Qualifying Test, and I would like to give my best. Just to introduce a little bit more, I am blessed with two sons. The older just finished the college in Rutgers last year, and he is now currently working. The younger one is in UPenn. He is doing management and technology course. He finished the first year, and he's here for the holidays now, summer holidays. With that, the passion in me, for teaching, and with the kids out of home, I said, okay, let me do this. And also, I'd like to share my experience with the parents out there and the students. So I'm hoping this would be useful, and hopefully, at least, few of you would get the benefit of this webinar. Okay, so this PSAT NMSQT, what is it, right? So we're going to go through these topics. If you look at why is it important to prepare for this PSAT test? How can the National Merit Scholarship Program help with the college admissions? How to effectively prepare for the PSAT test, and how we can help. Okay, so these are the the topics at a high level that I'm going to touch today. And if you have any questions, please feel free to type in, and then we can also discuss towards the end as we go. All right. Now, I'm going to mute one more time, everybody. Unmute, unmute. Yeah, kindly mute your phone. Keep it on mute. All right. The PSAT, the preliminary SAT test, the National Merit Scholarship Qualifying Test, is administered by College Board. The College Board and also is co-sponsored by the National Merit Scholarship Corporation, NMSC. Now, this is the only test that the National Merit Scholarship Corporation is going to use for awarding the scholarships. Now, about 3.5 million students across U.S. Take this test, right, each year, and it is administered once each year. It's, in the month of October. Now, this year, in 2017, the test is on October 11th. October 11th is the Wednesday, and 14th, the Saturday. So the preliminary or primary date is 11th Wednesday. So most schools give this test to the students in both, sophomores and juniors, mostly. The 3.5 million take the test. Now this test has, obviously 3 different areas: reading, writing and language, and math. And the tests, it's a standardized test. Basically, there is a core curriculum or syllabus for this test, but it tests anything that the student developed over many years, okay, or in the school and outside school as well. Okay, that's what the College Board states, in general, that this test, comprises of, the testing the student in what they learn over the time. Right, so it's nothing that you can prepare in one day and take the test. Okay. The scores from PSAT and NMSQT are used to determine the eligibility and qualification of juniors. Okay. So even though the sophomores are allowed to take the test, it is just for practice. So it's the juniors. So now that we are entering the summertime, in the fall when the school opens, the juniors take the test in October, and that the results of the test or the score is used for the National Merit Scholarship Program. Any questions so far? Now, the test format is, pretty straightforward. The reading test has 5 passages. This is the new, actually the SAT and PSAT in the new format. This is what you have. This is for PSAT specifically. The reading has 5 passages. Allotted time is 60 minutes, and there are 47 questions. The writing and language section has 4 passages, 35 minutes, but you can see that the number of questions are 44. So you have to answer more than 1 question per minute. All right. So I know I have students and parents on this webinar, and most of the time I'd be addressing the students and talking to the students directly. All right. So the math has 2 sections. One is section with no calculator, and the other one is with the calculator. The one with the no calculator, so that is the time when the calculator is not allowed for use. It has 25 minutes, and there are 17 questions. 13 of them are multiple choice, and the 4 questions are grid-in. So you have to, solve the problem and arrive at an answer and grid in the answer. So it's like you don't have, a choices to choose from. The math with calculator is a 45-minute test with 31 questions, and it has 27 multiple choice and 4 grid-in questions. The total test time, if you just add up, you get to 2 hours 45 minutes. So it's a long test, almost 3 hours you'd be sitting there with the breaks. And this is most important, there are no wrong answer penalties. So you are free to guess. Okay, doesn't mean that you guess all questions, but if you have a question that you are not 100%, you can eliminate the wrong answers that you think are clearly wrong, and then you can guess the one you think is right, because there are no penalties. All right. So moving on, the PSAT, the reading topics, it's important that you understand, what is in the test, right? So the reading, you have 5 passages. They test about the information and ideas. So, you have to obviously read the passage and answer the questions. Summarizing. So understand the relationships. This is very important when you are reading, the relationships, interpreting the words and phrases in context. So in context is also, it's not like what you think, it is, what is in the context. Rhetoric and, analyzing the word choices, assessing the overall text structure. All of these things, right, you have to go understand, how to answer after reading the passage. The last one is synthesis. This is analyzing multiple texts, analyzing quantitative information. So this is another thing where, you may be given it's not just a passage. You can see that, the 2 passages come from science and history. There are 2 passages, history and social studies. So you will be asked, to do some quantitative analysis of the information and answer those questions. Okay. Coming to the next one, the writing and language topics, the command of evidence. Again, remember, in the writing and language, you have to answer more than 1 question per minute. Okay, so in less than 60 seconds, you have to answer a question, right? So you need to pace yourself as well. So the command of evidence, words in context, specific subject area analysis, expression of ideas, standard English conventions, right? So obviously you need to have some good, grasp on the grammar. You need to look at how you can replace words in the context again. So there will be multiple passages in this, and you will be asked to answer the questions by, like in these areas. The types of questions are defined, and you'd go over that. Coming to the math, math is, what I'm more interested in, so I do math tutoring. So I have, in-depth understanding of all these topics. So it is broken down into Heart of Algebra, Problem Solving and Data Analysis, Passport to Advanced Math, and additional topics in math. All right, they meaning the College Board, specifically generalizes the topics by giving new or different names compared to what you were taught in school. But the topics are the same. When you break them down, these are linear equations, linear inequalities, so the linear functions in context. So, I did the best analysis of the syllabus for math and come up with this list of topics. And if you master this, most likely you achieve a very good score, a high score, a perfect score for that matter. All right. Moving on. So, some of you are familiar probably because you already took a test. The sample gradients, like you have, say, $1.75, you would not, grade in the dollar symbol, but you would say this is 1.7 and 5, right? So you have to practice this grading. And when you do that, say, for example, you cannot do 2 1/3. The best you can do is, you have to convert this into proper fraction with 7/3. So you would do 7 and a slash and a 3, right? So what you do is you need practice, and you cannot just go to the test and start, doing it. There are, say you have recurring decimals, how you solve, how you grid in that, and you have percentages, right? So 20% is same as 0.2, right? So you do a 0.2. All right. The best part is the scoring, right? So the PSAT, the NMSQT test, the scoring is in 2 parts. One, you will have a score for PSAT, and a separate score, or what we call the NMSQT selection index. So first talk about the PSAT. In comparison with SAT, SAT is for 2 800s. So here in this case, it is a maximum score of 760 and 760 for section 1, which comprises both reading and writing and language. The section 2 is math, no calculator, and calculator. So they take the score, the raw score that you achieve in reading and writing and language, and they have a scale to convert that, and you be awarded 160 to 760. So 760 is the maximum score for the section in PSAT test. And same thing with 760 in the math section. Now, if you add this, the maximum score you get in PSAT test is 1520. But this is just a reference score. What is more important is the NMSQT selection index. Now here, they break it down into 3 sections. The section 1 is reading, and based on your raw score, the section score is given between 8 and 38. The high score or perfect score you get is 38 if you answer all questions right. Same thing with the writing and language. If you answer all questions right, you get 38. And combining the math 2 sections, you're part of section 3. The score is 8 to 38 again. So you get 38 if you answer all math questions correctly. Now, to achieve the calculation of this NMSQT selection index, this is twice the sum of the section scores. So you take 38, 38, and 38, sum up, and then double it to get your score. Okay, so let's do an example here. If suppose I have, you get 35, 35, and 35. Now the total would be 70 plus 35, 105, and twice of that is 210. So your NMSQT selection index would be 210 if you achieve 35, 35, 35 in the 3 sections. All right. So it's near perfect score, but let's see how that compares with what the averages are for the selection. All right. Any questions? So let's talk about National Merit Scholarship Program. What is it? Right. The National Merit Scholarship Program is an academic competition, for the recognition and scholarships that began in 1955. My son strongly recommends that, he doesn't want me to use the word competition. See, you are actually competing with yourself, right? Basically it's your performance. You get a score and you get because it's not just one prize at the end of it. You're not running a sprint here, right? So I would say, this is an academic achievement that you should set yourself to achieve. Now, the PSAT, the NMSQT test it serves as an initial screen of approximately 1.6 million entrants each year. Even though I said 3.5 million take the test, the juniors are about 1.6 million, okay, across the 50 states, right? Now, the National Merit Scholarship Program, it recognizes, of the 1.6 million, 50,000 with the highest NMSQT selection index. Okay, so this would be about 3% nationally. So you can see that 3% of 1.6 million is approximately 50,000. Okay, so first, that is the first criteria where, about 50,000 are selected based on this NMSQT selection index. It's about 3% nationally. Once this 50,000 is arrived at, now in the September month, so we're talking about you're taking the test in October, and we're talking about September. That means it is September next year. All right. So in the September month, about 34,000 receive letters of recommendation or commendation. Sorry. So if you look at the September month, that is your senior year September. You're just about to start senior year, and you're ready to prepare your college applications. So that is the time they're going to announce the 50,000. Of the 50,000, 34,000 receive letters of commendation, and the top 16,000 are notified that they have qualified as semifinalists. Now, this 16,000 is selected based on the top 1% from each state. Okay, so it's 1% from each state. So again, the original 50,000 is selected based on national, at the national level, the top 3% almost. But when it comes to semifinalists, the selection would be top 1% from each state. And then from this 1%, semifinalists advance to finalist standing in the competition by meeting high academic standards and all other requirements. Okay, so you'll be required to submit an application to, with all the references to your achievements, the academic record, information about the school's curricula, grading system, SAT test scores if you have already taken one, the high school officials' written recommendation, students' activities and leadership, and the essay. But the good news is, of the 16,000, you can see that 15,000 semifinalists are notified by mail in February. By February, mostly all of your applications are done, that you have advanced to the finalist standing. Okay, so we can say that most students, who achieve the semifinalist status, they will get to the finalists. In April, the winners of Merit Scholarship Awards are chosen from the finalist group based on their abilities, skills, and accomplishments, without regard to gender, race, ethnic origin, religion, or anything. Right? This is pure merit scholarship. That will be announced in the month of April. Any questions before we move on? Now, the following is the state cutoff for the program. Sure, yeah, I'll share this PDF as well. So when you look at this state cutoffs, because we said, for the semifinalists, it's only the top 1% from each state make it, the cutoffs vary. Out of the maximum score that we said is 228, there are states with the highest cutoff as like 222, New Jersey, for example, and DC. And there are some states, I think what I noted is the 209 in the West Virginia, Wyoming, or, the Dakotas, right? So what I can tell you is, again, there are some states which are very competitive, and achieving that 1% top in those states requires a little bit more hard work relative to some other states. To advance to the finalist from a semifinalist, the student has to make the application, and probably they eliminate about 1,000 students because they do not meet the criteria, and this is a simple application. All right. Moving on. So if you go back to what I wrote here, the 210, if you get a 35, 35, and a 35, it's not quite enough, right? That's the point I'm trying to make. It's not to discourage you or encourage you. This is, to make you understand how important it is to prepare for this test if you are planning to achieve the National Merit Scholarship. All right. Why is it important to prepare for PSAT and NMSQT? My first answer would be, since the PSAT is similar to the SAT, any studying you do now will pay off when you take the SAT test. All right. So what I mean by that, the test formats are similar, and PSAT has obviously lighter compared to SAT. So if you're preparing for PSAT, or the other way, you prepare for SAT, you're good, because ultimately you have to take the SAT. Or some states may have a choice, some students may choose ACT, but otherwise the preparation that you make for PSAT is not going to go waste. You have a chance to win a scholarship. 8,700 awards are given, with a combined value of $44 million. So the 2,500 national merit scholarships are given, each worth $2,500. Okay, I'm proud to say my younger son, Bharat, he achieved the National Merit Scholarship. So he got the award, $2,500. They do not give this in cash. They actually, pay to the university that, as a tuition. So to the UPenn program, they paid 1,250 for semester 1 and then another 1,250 for the semester 2. There are 1,000 corporate sponsored merit scholarships. So, most likely this is by application. So some of the corporations, they ask their employees' children to apply for, and they coordinate with. These are coordinated with College Board and the National Merit Scholarship program. So they coordinate and award these corporate sponsored scholarships, and then there are some special scholarships also, corporate sponsored. And then you have 4,000 higher education institutions sponsored college merit scholarships. These are really valuable. Now, there is an example here that I'm giving. The University of Oklahoma, the universities feel that, they're privileged to have these students with the national merit, semifinalists or finalists. So when you make the application, or even before, as soon as they understand that you are in the list, you would receive a lot of invitations from these universities for making the application. And some of the universities offer, full ride. So, if you look at the value of the scholarships offered by Oklahoma for the national merit finalist is about 100,000 plus, okay, for a out of state student. Okay, so these, obviously understanding that you will have certain universities offering scholarships based on your PSAT score, I think that's cool. Okay, we have a couple of questions here. Prince Will, when is the earliest one can take the SAT? So any student taking SAT test after entering high school, that's 9th grade, that is counted. Okay, so it will be on your records, and the College Board is obligated to share those scores with colleges. So strongly recommend that you fully prepare and take the test. Typically, at the beginning of your junior year, right? You take the PSAT first, and then you take the SATs, because the preparation is typically, similar. But there are many more students, these days taking the test when they are in 7th or 8th grade. I think the College Board now allows the students to take the test in 8th grade, and when they take the test, that score is not sent to colleges. So it is going to be taken out of your records once you enter high school. All right. Anu's question, what other universities offer full ride scholarship? I think College Board publishes a list. Every year it obviously changes, but I can try and share the list that they published last year. Right? But it's a long list. You can see, there are many universities, offering these scholarships. Do they take an average of so many tests taken? So different colleges take, the SAT scores differently. Some universities, and most I think these days, they say super score. So if you have the 2 scores, then they take the reading and writing score from one test and the math score from the other test. They super score it. They can do different things, but bottom line is all of those scores are reflected in your application. So you got to be selective in taking the tests. They do not take average. I haven't heard them taking the average. Some universities take the best score, right? And some take it even better, super score, but not the averages. Does the PSAT count towards the college? The PSAT score doesn't count directly at all. what counts is the national merit qualifying, the index. That score would get you an award, and if you're a semifinalist, then that counts. You can add that on your resume, saying that you are a national merit, scholarship semifinalist. Obviously, the colleges also receive the list of students who are on that achievement list, but finalists will be announced February next year. So, that won't go on your application. All right. Oops. How to effectively prepare for PSAT and NMSQT, right? So again, this is how I prepare, and obviously I asked my son to prepare for. Study the format and content of the test. So take your time, understand the test. Okay, what is the format? How many questions I have to answer? What is the content? What is it, right? And the sooner you know about it, the better you are prepared for. And the catchy phrase that I use, learn the techniques, practice for perfection, and achieve to celebrate. Right? Any little success that you achieve, always, celebrate. But, learning the techniques will help, and then you need a lot of practice. So practice only gets you there. Since the PSAT is similar to SAT, for any additional practice, if you have SAT material available, use it. There's not a lot of PSAT material available, but again, you can always supplement with SAT material. Now, take practice tests under typical test conditions. Okay, so the definition of typical test condition is basically you print a test paper, right? You don't do it online. Even if you do it online, you have to make sure that you sit down for 2 or 45 minutes at a stretch and do the test. And you pace yourself in answering the questions. Okay, so that helps you figure out how to pace yourself, increase your test-taking endurance. See, if you do it in piecemeal and over the time, several times, then when you go to the test, you have to sit there and do it for 2 or 45 minutes or even more. So you lose it. And practice, filling the bubble answer sheets and math grids. So, you should practice it because it takes time to fill in the bubbles, and you have to account for that time as well as part of your test taking, right? If you just type in the answers or write the answers on the paper or just mark them with a tick, it's not going to help you. After taking each practice test, again, evaluate your performance, obviously, and focus your subsequent prep work on your weakest areas. So this is something, you have to self-identify, what your areas of strength and weakness. And you have to practice such a way, or read more material or spend more time on those areas so that you improve. Yeah, so there's a question about the PSAT and ACT. ACT is administered by a different board. It's not college board, and that organization, the tests format is different. So it includes science as a separate section, right? And since we are focusing primarily on PSAT, I defer that question. How many times you can take the PSAT? Just once. Once in the junior year, that score is used for this. But most schools allow the sophomores, that is the 10th grade students, to take the test in October simultaneously, and that is for practice only. Right? Those scores do not count. All right. So before we go to my SAT advisor, I would like to share my experience in guiding my son or sons to complete this, to go through this process, right? So each one is different, and they come with different styles. The younger one, Bharat, he took the tests, SAT, right after he took the PSAT, and he achieved a score, and then he repeated the test again, and then he achieved a perfect score. All right. So when he submitted to the college, obviously, the perfect score counts. At that time, he applied for the University of Pennsylvania, and he applied for the specific program called MNT, the Management and Technology, which is a dual degree program. This is a specific offering by UPenn, which gives bachelor's in engineering by the Penn Engineering College and bachelor's in economics, BS in economics, by Wharton. And he chose to do computer science engineering and finance, a part of Wharton's program. So he gets dual degree once he successfully completes, and it's a 4-year program. So to get the 2 degrees together, the Jerome Fisher program, the guidance, the university office, they coordinate between the engineering college and the Wharton School, and they decide, the curriculum and the subjects that the students have to finish. And the strength of the program is about 50 students. Similar to this management and technology program within UPenn, there are other programs for sciences students, life sciences and management. Likewise, there are several other dual degree programs that UPenn offers. And personally, I liked it when I learned about it, and my son, prepared for that, and obviously he submitted this application. What they call is, you have several ways of doing this application: regular application, and there is an early decision. So he applied early decision, which is binding, and he got into it. So he accepted the, and obviously he has to cancel the applications for other universities he made. All right. So the MNT program, you can read all about it on the UPenn website. More than that, when a student is making application for college, there are a few things that that the student has to be aware, right? Number one, and the foremost, is academics, right? Your GPA counts. Okay, that's number one. Nothing else, comes close, right? The academics, your GPA, the 4-year, high school, obviously 3 years because you just enter the senior year when you submit these applications. So your academics, the course selection that you make, relative to the offering by your school, and the GPA, the weighted GPA in most universities accept or give that weightage, is something that matters. And then the standardized tests, so either you take SAT or ACT or both, and the universities, the honor, the scores from the SAT or ACT that you choose to submit. And then the SAT subject tests, at least you need, say for engineering line, at least you need a math and a physics or a chemistry, minimum, you should do 2, minimum. And then the APs, so APs definitely give you a specific advantage, scoring good, in AP. Also, you would get some eligibility in, getting exceptions, so that you can advance and finish off your college degree in 3.5 years or 3 years. You can't go wrong taking AP exams. The recommendation letters from the guidance counselor So you be aware that at the end of the third year, so when you get into the senior year, you would fill in a request for your guidance counselor to write recommendation for your colleges. So you be aware that you obviously everything counts in your school, what you do for the first 3 years of the time. The teachers, the 2 recommendation letters, mostly from a math and a science or math and English. It depends on the schools, colleges. They sometimes specify what they need, but if you are going for engineering, definitely the math and sciences count. But if you're going for sciences, then definitely the sciences or the humanities, right? And 1 recommendation from outside school. Okay, so again, my son volunteered for March of Dimes, so the state March of Dimes official gave the recommendation. So you have to make a choice and select at least one outside person to give recommendation. Those who work with you or know you personally. Then comes the extracurricular activities, right? You do sports, the games or the clubs that you participate, and the achievements that you have in those areas, and the leadership positions that you hold. Because when you register saying that you were part of a science Olympiad, then what's your role? So what was your role in 9th grade, 10th, 11th, 12th? So again, by then, because you're in senior year, your leadership position in the senior year counts. So you can write it down saying that you are president of the Science Olympiad Club in your school. Then comes volunteer work. The volunteer work, you can say that 2 parts, as service. So community service is a big part. So you work in a say a hospital, and you do the community service or a library. There are places where you can work on providing the service to the community, and there are other areas where you can you can do fundraising. You can take initiative. You can set up new activity where you exhibit some leadership roles. Again, obviously doing the volunteer work. And then the honors and awards. Okay, so any honors or high honors or awards that you receive during your high school career, those are important. So you should, obviously some are achieved as part of your school clubs or activities or academics, but some you may have to go out of the way and work for them. All right. So keep in mind, international honors and awards take highest precedence, then the national level, then the state or regional school, but everything counts, right? So you have to work towards achieving some honors and awards. And then the research and internships. So you can apply for summer research or internships, and sometimes you do paid jobs. Those count as well. Your work, if you are working in a library, paid, those aspects, those things would count as well. We can also do some, programs outside school. Actually, it'd be interesting if I say academics outside school, like you attend some university courses or summer programs. They count, particularly if they are credit courses, right? And if you attend any of those programs, or plan to attend, that is good. And the application, finally, right? When you're applying for the college, the application is what count. So in the application, you will have some essays to write. You have a lot of information to provide. You have to attach your resume, and sometimes, you may have to attend some interviews also for college admission. So you have to be prepared, to do all of that as you go. So you have to build your personality over the time, next 3 years, to get there. All right. And step one, I would say, is taking this PSAT test, and achieving this honor would definitely, place you in a better position. All right. So moving on, I have this My SAT Advisor. So this was developed you can visit this website, mysatadvisor.com. This is a place where it provides a platform for a student to prepare for SAT tests. And as you take the tests, gives you a report like what you see here on the screen. This report also includes sections like this, where you have the question number 2, what type of question it is, what is the difficulty level, the time you spent on this question, and your response, what's the correct answer, and whether you guessed, you can mark that you guessed. And because it's important that you get it right, but you guessed. So you need to review the answer for this. So it cuts on your time. You don't have to go through reviewing all questions, but you can selectively check the answer explanations for these questions. And then definitely the questions that you got wrong are marked, highlighted. And later on, when you review the answers, you can also bookmark them so that at a future date, you can review all the questions that you bookmarked, so that, the ones you guessed, once you read the answer, probably you would know, and you don't need to bookmark it. But some questions, that you bookmark, for future reference, right? So it gives you that analysis, and this analytical platform, right now, the NSF is signing up to use this platform for all their students. It's a good place to start. And if you use Prep2Excel as a referrer, you would get 50% off when you sign up. It's not that expensive, actually. It's about $30 for 3 months, and on top of it, you would get a very decent discount. I'll share that information by email, and you can follow up. The next one is the Prep2Excel. So this is the website that we set up. Primarily, we are offering math tutoring, SAT math tutoring, and we have schedules starting in June. Actually, we do it on both Saturday and Sunday, same session. So student can register for either Saturday sessions or Sunday sessions, and in case if they have a conflict on a Saturday, they can attend the Sunday session, or vice versa. Again, we have another set of sessions starting in August 12th and 13th. So I recommend you visiting the site, view the lesson plan, what exactly in the program, and then this program, students will do practice tests once a week. So there will be 7 practice tests as part of this 7-week program. I believe, we just completed the batches started in February, and I received very good feedback from the students and the parents. And now we're going to have, obviously, improve further based on the feedback we received, both on the material, the tests, and the lessons and the teaching. All right. Coming back, let me bring up. Okay. We have some questions here. What grade age should you prepare PSAT, and what grade should you use SATadvisor.com? So as I said, the students are preparing, the sooner they start preparing, the College Board offers students to take the SAT test in the 8th grade, which doesn't count, and they erase the records once the student gets into high school. So that gives them a view into, what is the content, what is the format, what is that I'm preparing for. So it gives them first-hand experience in doing it. And my son took it in 8th grade. My older one took, obviously, when he's going into college. But the younger one prepared early. He took in 7th grade and also in 8th grade, twice. Okay, there is a question. And SAT advisor, MySAT advisor, anybody can sign up and do the practice tests. These are standardized tests that again gives them, practice. And a recommendation is that the student gives a gap for another 3 to 6 months and redo the tests. Make sure that they get perfect score, because the student is expected to review the material again, all the questions they got incorrect, look at the answer explanations, make sure that they understand, and then take the test after some time to ensure that their understanding is what is reflected in the tests. So, Arun, your question, we are working on the English on Prep to Excel. Once we find a suitable tutor and the material, we're going to start. Hopefully this summer, I'll post you guys, once we have that going. Oh, student attend remotely, say from another country. Sure. If this is a question about MySAT advisor or about Prep to Excel, yes, students can, because these are all online. Principal, I'm not sure your question, if it is about SAT test or the PSAT. Yes, students from outside country can take the tests as well. They have to make arrangements with the college board. How long are the sessions from June until July? Each session is 2 hours on the weekend, but there will be a practice test the student has to take. The math practice test would be about an hour long. They need to take the test once every week. Of course, they should spend a reasonable amount of time to read through the material and practice more during these sessions to definitely see the improvement. How can I shorten the time it takes me to read the sections? Read the passages, I think, if I'm reading it right. Ashish, that is the technique that you have to develop over the time, and under the guidance from a tutor, probably give you some techniques. So reading the passage and answering the questions definitely requires some practice and understanding of some techniques. Sure, I will add the email address. Your own tutoring sessions. Yes, my tutoring sessions, anybody can attend from anywhere. Yeah, because these are online, and they would be exactly similar to what you see here. Obviously more interactive because it would be less number of students and actively participate in the discussion. Today I cannot open the lines, unmute the lines, because invariably there will be at least a couple of microphones giving feedback, and there will be a lot of noise. I'm going to open up in a few minutes for the question answers. How long should people be prepared per week for PSAT, SAT? It varies, like again, it's a long-term process, and we shouldn't stress the students taking the tests in the last month or 2 months. The earlier they start and they go through the sections, they identify their weakness and work on them, retake the tests, and it's a process that would take them to the perfection. All right, so the MySAT advisor we talked about. Let's move on to the next one. So we talked about the Prep to Excel. Again, it's a 7 2-hour online sessions, and then 7 practice tests. We grade the tests and obviously share the details with the student. We work with the students to make sure their questions are answered, and most important is the techniques. A lot of these questions are standardized test. They repeat, and each requires. There are various techniques, and particularly math. You can imagine, right? So there is a way of solving the problem to arrive at the answer, but there is a technique that gives you a shortcut that saves you time, so where you can apply that time somewhere else. So these are interactive sessions that go on. So sessions starting on 3rd of June and 4th of June. There are another set of sessions starting on August 12th and 13th. We have all of the schedules, lesson plans, and you can register online. The registration for the June sessions close on May 31st, all right? Because they have to take the test before they attend the first session. The next part, the recommended books here on College Board website, it has 2 practice tests online. So I think everybody preparing should take these 2 tests, and then additional practice. You can go to Barron's or Kaplan. Definitely, the more you prepared, the better you are. Needless to say, all right. So that brings to the end. I'm glad I'm able to finish it in the 1-hour duration that I set for this. Any questions? I'm going to open the mic, see if there is no feedback then. Unfortunately. So, but definitely when I work with the students, all students are, very well, they mute all their phones and they work with me closely. They know how to do it. It works very, interactively. But anyway, coming back to, type your questions if you have any. At what age do you suggest child starts prepare for PSATs? So the PSAT tests, as I said, will be in the junior year, October, right? So definitely that summer, the student has to, prepare. But if they start sooner and, start to practice and take these tests, probably in the 8th, 9th grades, they are well set. Okay, so this PDF, I'll share it to the email group. So those who signed up for this would definitely get the material. For the June session, will they take PSAT before starting the prep? Sorry, for the June session, will they take PSAT before starting the prep? To check their level. No, basically, the first test would give them an overview of, where they stand, and the weekly tests would show the improvement. So there is no test before starting. What I meant to say is there are 7 sessions, and we're going to give a test for each session. So it would be a week advance. The students will have time to do the test, and then we review the answers in about 10-15 minutes in the during the session. So most of the time, 2 hours is spent with the lecture, and then we have some rapid-fire questions that we do just to keep the student engaged. And towards the end, we can spend like about 15-20 minutes to review some of the harder problems in the test. Okay. So if you take the PSAT in the junior year, when do you take the SAT? So you are required to take the SAT before you apply, for the colleges in the senior year. So you can take the SAT anytime. but I strongly recommend taking the SAT right after you take the PSAT. If the student registers for June but cannot make the full 7 straight weeks, can remain the weeks be attended in August? Good question, Prince. Certainly we can accommodate that. Not an issue because we are flexible. Does the June session preps for PSAT and SAT? Yes. So based on my previous experience, we are actually doing the complete coverage of the syllabus for SAT during the June sessions or August sessions, either way. And all the tests are SAT tests, but I have prepared the PSAT tests as well. So even after the sessions are done, I would continue to share some additional material and practice tests with the students so they get additional practice. Is it possible to post audio as well in addition to the PDF? So actually, I would post the entire recording of this session. So I'll share that recording. You can see it. The upper limit for Prep to Excel is 20 students, but what if you have more than 20 students? No, actually, try and limit to 20. Unfortunately, more than 20 would, I think makes it impractical for me to follow all the students during, the period. All right. Any other questions before we finish it? All right. Thank you very much, and I look forward for your feedback. And particularly, please send an email to Mr. Prasad Babu, who obviously sent the email out to connect you guys with me, saying really appreciate his community support that he provides to the community. Thank you.